Guys, welcome back to Morning Footy. As you all well know by now, the reports of Mauricio Pochettino coming very close to signing that deal to become the next USMNT manager. And what we're going to do with two former U.S. men's internationals is take a look at a couple of important starting lineups that Mauricio Pochettino has put out there. Look, he's not master tactician, but he knows how to organize a lot of groups and teams and have an organized setup to approach matches. Let's remember, he took out Pep Guardiola in a Champions League quarterfinal when Spurs beat Manchester City before going on to beating Ajax and getting to that final. So against Liverpool in that Champions League season, this is the 11 that he put out. He tends to play in this 4-2-3-1. What do you make of this, Chuck, when you see it off the bat?
I think, how the hell did they get to a Champions League final? No, I mean, it's very organized, and Christian Eriksen obviously comes inside to offset the midfield. You add another number there, and you see Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. Harry Kane was in the box, that presence. He stayed mostly central. He could drop deep. And Heung-min Son was just such a dangerous weapon in the wide areas. He would come inside. It was pretty narrow. They didn't really use the width all that much with this team, and they kept possession. If you saw the final, they dominated possession. Liverpool dominated the chances in the first half, and then the second half, they grew into the game. They conceded that early penalty, which I think made it very difficult. Yeah, but ultimately, his teams love to keep possession, and then they do get forward and they're aggressive.
See organization right in the back. There's no doubt about it. This team was a counter-attacking team, right? If you remember, they were pretty good on the counter. They didn't press nearly as much, I don't know, in this Champions League as maybe we've seen in later iterations of Mauricio Pochettino's teams. But I think this is some pretty good work with this group to get to a Champions League final.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
In the way. This was them growing into Mauricio Pochettino and a team that could keep the ball and get at you really, really quick. But I think organization is the thing that sticks out to me, especially with this back four. You think about two older center backs. Trippier at the time was one of the up-and-coming right backs in all of world football for a little while, right? He had Dele Alli playing about as good. I think this was the best that we've ever seen, Dele Alli.
This was the best iteration of Dele Alli. After they win this Champions League final, Spurs kind of drops off to start the Premier League season, and that's when Pochettino gets fired. Mourinho comes in, and then it's like we never saw Dele Alli again. So he got the best. Talk about man management. There are two ways. Mourinho tried a different approach. If you guys saw the documentary All or Nothing, he was very stern with Dele Alli, and he didn't get the best out of him. He also kind of tailed off, and Poch seemingly got the best of him. So I think that speaks to how good of a man manager he is. All right, let's take a look at the Coupe de France team with PSG. A much more talented team, 2021 Coupe de France. Navas, Florenzi, Marquinhos, Kerr, Diallo, Paredes, Gay, Pereira, who also can play as a center back. I think that would be a little bit more inverted, right? Pereira a little bit deeper. Yep. In the classic 4-3-3 that we saw for so long, Charlie, with Berhalter.
Yeah, this, to me, is more defensive-minded because of that front three. Di Maria, Mbappe, Icardi, they're not defending. So it was almost, let's control that midfield. Pereira and Paredes, they were more tasked with spraying balls and allowing that front three to just run, get on the run, get in behind. But they primarily just stayed defensively, and you talk about being organized. This, to me, is the definition of being organized in a 4-3-3.
Yeah, and don't get caught so much in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 because this midfield here can really be changed, right? If this is what we call point up, right? We have this triangle here, but this is your three, and there's your three up top. If you put Pereira down here, it's point down, right? So some people look at that as a more attacking formation because two of these players would be a little bit ahead of each other. So when you think about 4-2-3-1 compared to 4-3-3, like they're numbers in the end, right? They're starting positions, and during a game that changes because if you took snapshots of the game, you might see a 4-2-3-1, you might see a 4-3-3, or some other formation based on what's happening at that moment. But I think the important thing is, do we have the type of players that he wants, right, to fit either of these. We have to put them down as numbers, but either of these formations, and I think we do. Maybe not as experienced as some. We don't have an Mbappe that is just a complete game changer. We don't have a Harry Kane who's a goal scorer in the last formation, but we have similar styles of players.
So the ideology that I'm seeing in his teams, right, with, let's say Pereira was point down, which he probably was, more of a defensive player. He's played even center back at times. You either have him combined with a Gay in the midfield and then Paredes a little bit more free, or it can be fluid, right? On that Spurs team, we saw 2 defensive midfielders. Now we go to the Chelsea team that played in the Carabao Cup final from last season. We saw a lot of Enzo and Caicedo being kind of that balance and giving it stability, organization, 2 strong center backs, 2 strong holding midfielders, wing backs that can venture up.
Yeah, I would say we saw with the outside backs here in particular, them bombing forward at times. The midfield, Conor Gallagher also would get back and defend. So similar to what we just saw with that PSG, 3 players who will also do the hard work and defend and provide cover. I think these 3 were a little bit more gifted in terms of passing forward and connecting and getting, especially Enzo Fernandez, he likes to go up the field slowly as that ball continues to move to the front 3. So.
And that's what you were saying, Tony, because Caicedo can drop in, right? And it could look different than what we see on paper.
Yeah, it's a great point, because you remember early in the season, he played Fernandez as a 10, higher up the field, and everyone thought he was crazy, right? But I think part of it was he thought he had some qualities in that part of the field. It didn't work out in the end. This is where he ended up alongside me. He was hurt for a while early in the season. And what it ended up being was they found this partnership here, but he knew that even when the ball turned over and they wanted to press, he had a guy there that could win the ball, right? So, again, I think the flexibility part is the most important thing. One thing we've been frustrated with over the last couple of years, especially the last 2 years, is how stagnant we've been. This guy fits only this, and this guy fits only this, where in world football these days...
You need a plan B, a plan C.
Right, and it has to happen in the game, and the players have to be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I hope Georgi Petrovic was telling Pochettino how good his left back was at New England Revolution, because we're going to take a look at the potential 11 with DeJuan Jones. I'm kidding. I know you like DeJuan Jones a lot. This is what it could potentially be. We're looking at this for the first time, by the way. Production put this together. How do you feel about this, Chuck, when you see it off the bat, imagining Pochettino on the bench?
Well, I have to tell you, I think Yunus Musa is going to find his way into the team with Pochettino. I just think Yunus Musa is a player that Pochettino will, one, coach up and understands that his quality is great. And so I feel that he will make his way into this 11. Now, if I'm looking at the back line, I do think, it's going to be a 4-man back line. Anthony Robinson, that position is locked. No one has even come close to challenging him in that left back spot. He's been consistent, and we see Chris Richards, who has kind of emerged now as the next up-and-coming rising center back for the U.S. men's national team. Now, this is interesting. His partner, Miles Robinson and Richards, have partnered well together, but now you have a Mark McKenzie, for instance, who's potentially making the move to Toulouse in Liga, which I think will be a fantastic jump for him. Cameron Carter-Vickers, who has also played under Pochettino at Tottenham. So that'll be interesting. Gio Reyna, yes, you're pointing at him, has to play. He's at Dortmund, and I'm assuming there wasn't enough any offers that were substantial enough for him to leave Dortmund. That's going to be the key. Does he get his playing time with the U.S. men's national team if he's not playing at Dortmund? And I think when Pochettino comes into this position, he's going to say, whoever's in my team has got to be playing with their club.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for me. This is what Pochettino's lineup would look like. I think if he started a game tomorrow, this would be close to it. But for me, it's too far out to project, right? Because he's got to play.
Right.
He's got to find a team, has to find a team to play on, has to get in a starting lineup somehow. I'm assuming, I'm praying that he's healthy, right? And he has to score more goals. I mean, there's just like far too many question marks for me to think that this is going to be the lineup in 2026 that Pochettino is going to roll out. It makes sense now, right? But don't be surprised if there's a lot of changes.
And I mean, even Des has to recover from his ACL, but I want to single in on the goalkeeper because I think Matt Turner and his performance at Copa America was put into question a little bit. Whether if he is the starting goalkeeper without a shadow of a doubt after Copa America and with Pochettino, do you have more question marks around the goalkeeper situation?
No doubt. Look, going into the World Cup when you play, I think it was 7 League Cup games, right, at Arsenal, and getting into the World Cup, okay, he had a really good World Cup, I thought, Matt Turner. But over time, when you're not playing, it starts to catch up with you, right? I think there's a conversation here in 2026. Gaga Slonina made the move to Barnes. I know it's 2 leagues down, but playing every day. Does Schulte, we saw a little bit in the Olympics, he had some hiccups as well. Is Ethan Horvath a guy that maybe can turn it on now because he's the man at his club? I think there's some possibilities here. Right now, Matt Turner's the number 1, and I think people would feel comfortable saying that, but I don't know how comfortable they are if he doesn't go. It's almost impossible to get another year playing the number of games that he's played.